Welcome to the First Home Show podcast, created for first home buyers. I'm your host, Melissa Barlass. I'm a property lawyer, owner and founder of Conveyed, and I've been a first home buyer myself. In this podcast, I'm going to show you in up to 10 short-minute increments what you need to know as a first home buyer, and I'll share with you all of my legal tips on how to purchase your first home successfully. Don't go it alone in the property market. We at Conveyed are here for you. Hello and welcome to the next installment, the next episode of the First Home Show. I'm Melissa Barlass. I'm the owner and director of Conveyed. We're a conveyancing law firm that assists clients buying in Victoria. And today I am joined by a really amazing mortgage broker. His name is Rishi Bhatia from Kria Mortgage Managers, an absolute gun and expert in his space. And what we're going to talk about today is the importance of having a really good property team around you. So we'll delve into what those team members are. So, for example, legal, mortgage broker, and we'll delve into why they're so important. But first of all, I'd like to introduce Rishi. Thanks so much for coming onto the show, Rishi. I know you're a very busy professional and helping a lot of people across our state and beyond. So thank you and welcome.
Thanks, Mel. Thanks for having me, and really excited to be here. I think the education which you're providing to your listeners is fantastic, and I'm really lucky to be part of it. So thank you again for having me.
You're most welcome. We love to share information. Knowledge is power. We like to make sure that clients and customers and the general public and society feels a lot more in control when they're actually out there buying property. Especially our first home buyers, because there's a lot of stuff out of their control. It's nice to try and put that control back in if we can, as experts, help them. So that sort of leads me to my first question about who should home buyers, especially first home buyers, have on their team. Can you tell us and give us, our listener, a bit of insight into what sort of team members first home buyers should have on their team and why it's actually so important to have them?
Yes, I agree with you. You know, knowledge is empowering, and it's a big bad, but not bad word, but it's a lot of information out there for especially a first home buyer. You know, initially they're struggling to just get a deposit together, and then they're like, okay, now what? You know, so it's very important to have a great team. And that team starts with a good mortgage finance broker. It starts along with a good legal conveyancer. And then as they go along, they can add different professionals like a building inspector. If they choose to then use a buyer's agent, then that's also good. But between the two professionals of legal and finance, I think if they get that team right, they've done about 95% of the work. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you look at the sort of the chain or the process, obviously it's always a good idea to get your loan pre-approved through your mortgage broker. So that'd be the first person you'd call. We'd come into the picture when it comes to you narrowing down what property you want to buy. We can do things like reviewing the contract. Buyer's advocate, really awesome people to actually find the right property for you that is in line with your needs and budget. And then, of course, for people wanting to buy in different structures, wanting to know their tax obligations, an accountant might be useful. Building inspector, absolutely, before they buy. I think you've hit the nail on the head with those professionals. So I just want to hone in on the finance front for a moment, because as I mentioned before, a lot of buyers generally especially first home buyers committing to one of the biggest financial decisions of their life, should really have a good understanding of their financial position going into buying their first home. So can you tell us a little bit more about why it's so important to have a great mortgage broker on their team before they buy a property?
Yes, no, very important to have one. So, and the first home buyers in today's say in 2024 have a lot of options. So when I bought my first property back in 14 years ago, we didn't have all these options. So we had to save the 20%, or we had to pay the lender's mortgage insurance, which I believe is money down the drain. And we also had to pay stamp duty. So right now, there are so many options for first home buyers. The government is really, really keen to get first home buyers into housing. So they're providing a lot more options. And this is where a good mortgage broker comes to, use that. If they know all the facilities, they know all the policies, they understand what the government is offering. So gone are the days for first home buyers to save 20%. They can save 5%. If they have a 5% saving and they're buying in Victoria for under $600,000, that's essentially all they need. Under $600,000, they don't even need to pay stamp duty. The Victorian government kind of has waived that off. Anything above 5%, if they've saved, the Australian government kind of guarantees that loan. So there's no lender's mortgage insurance, or LMI as we know it, to be paid. So yeah, so if you're earning well, and there are obviously criteria for earning. If you're earning too much, that also is, then you don't qualify. So there are qualifying criteria. The reason I say all this is there are many factors, many qualifying criteria, and many ways to skin the cat. And that's why a good mortgage broker comes in handy. So I've been doing this for the last 9 years, and with a clear understanding of how residential mortgages work, and all the policies, all the government incentives. It's very important if you get a good mortgage broker on your side, and they'll guide you through all the steps. I had customers who thought that they don't have the 5% save. Just giving an example, they didn't have 5% save, but they were renting. And there's just a few lenders who say, you know what, we'll take rental as your savings proof. And we got them over the line. So they went to the bank, another bank, and the bank said no. So it's very important. Talk to a mortgage broker. They know what they're doing. We do this every day. We have your best interests at heart. You're not just a number for us. So yeah, that's why it's really, really important to have a good broker where they can arrange your finances, get you pre-approved, and then, put that in your back pocket and start shopping.
Amazing insights there. I totally echo what you're saying. You've got a lot of help from the government. You've got help at a federal level, you've got help at a state level with the schemes that are available now. Like you said, you've got a 5% deposit scheme that's happening at the moment for first home buyer. Word jargon this morning. For first home buyers to access the market. Obviously, you need to weigh up your circumstances, what's going to be the right strategy for you, I guess,
Yes.
going into buying your first home, because you really want to set yourself up well on the first one, because that sets you up for other properties if wealth creation is your goal.
100%.
Totally agree about getting the mortgage broker in right from the outset, and I would even argue is to get them in as early as possible, not just before you're buying, but to actually get them in even a year prior to plan, to financially plan, what sort of income levels you need to be at, what sort of expenses you need to drop, all that stuff, what sort of credit cards you might need to close. All that is really important. If you can forward plan in advance, by the time you want to go into the market, you'll be absolutely ready. So it's so important to get the mortgage broker in. Another point that I understand with mortgage brokers is they actually protect your credit score, because if you go straight to a lender, you make too many inquiries, it actually impacts your lender's your credit score. So with a mortgage broker, you inquire through them. You're the middle person that protects the client's credit score because you're making the inquiries on their behalf. So that's another really important factor. But
yeah, just on
yes,
point,
your best interest duty.
Yeah, I've had many customers who come with, poor credit scores. Obviously, we've had a few hacks with these telcos in the past, and that, they've impacted their credit score because the identity has been stolen. So we take on a bigger role there where we ask the customers to engage with the ombudsmen and so on to get their name cleared, to get their credit score up and running. Because you're right, it 100% impacts their, borrowing capacity. It 100% impacts which lenders will entertain them. So customers don't know that. And I wish, in our high schools, and in fact, working with some high schools too, in grade 11s and 12s to tell them, guys, take one credit card, take it for a small limit and use it wisely, build your credit score, because the kids don't know. And then they get misguided. And, 10, 15 years later, when they're out to buy their first property, a lot of them don't know. And then they end up with terrible scores. They missed a payment or they defaulted and they don't even care or they didn't even remember. So spot on there, Melissa, that we are your guardrail before you hit those credit files. And we ensure that you all don't, end up in a mess.
That's right.
Just to put it very
If
simply.
you're listening to this and you are a parent, you've got teenage children, for example, start the relationship with your mortgage broker like Rishi, and start having those conversations to help your children, to help guide your children down the right financial path and avoid issues, in credit score dropping, incurring too much debt too early on in their life. It's really going to put you in good stead. And yeah, that's very insightful stuff. I remember many years ago when I bought my first home, we certainly didn't have a lot of the incentives we have now. Like you said, we had to come up with the 20%. So now is a perfect time to start having a chat with a mortgage broker. But the other important...
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say the other important team member that anyone looking to buy property, especially if it's your first property, you need to have the right legal team around you. So not
only the first one, Mel, any property at any point you're looking to buy.
Any property.
Yeah, you need to have a fantastic legal conveyancer, ideally, who's got a legal background, not just conveyancing, because and I'm going to allow you to explain why is that. I used to, as a mortgage professional, I understand the reason, but I think your listeners would love to hear why is it so important, and then maybe why both mortgage brokers and conveyancers and legal professionals need to work together, for this.
Absolutely. The importance of working together is making sure that the transaction runs completely smoothly from the start all the way through to the end. You'd consider us as part of your purchasing family. We are out there to support you as much as possible when you're out there buying a property. And you have to make sure that you're vetting every person that you're working with to buy your first property to make sure they are the right fit for you. It's not just about price. As a solicitor, we certainly don't charge like, top tier, medium tier solicitors would. We're very reasonable, but price is absolutely not everything, especially with a legal professional. As a solicitor, we can do obviously a lot more for you. If something curly comes up or if you need us on short notice, we are absolutely available for you. So having the additional expertise that comes with being a solicitor is going to set yourself up really well. It means a lot of the advice that you might want to get along your transaction does not have to be outsourced, and that reduces your costs overall on your transaction. But on the topic of costs as well, just make sure, again, you're vetting the conveyancer, because you want to make sure that they're a dime a dozen. just like mortgage brokers. So you've got to make sure that you are comfortable with who you're working with. As a solicitor, I pick up the phone with my customers all the time when they call, and they instantly have the impression and understanding that I mean business. I am an expert in the industry. So, and so is my team. And that is exactly what you need, because if something curly comes up, let's say there's a delay in finance, obviously the customer would be in good hands with you, Rishi, to help facilitate that, to help manage that. But if we needed to, respond to the vendor's conveyancer to ask for an extension to the due date for getting finance under the contract of sale, you want to make sure that you've got someone on your team that's being able to act promptly and advise you properly around where you stand on that. So that's just one example, but certainly, you have to think if there's someone out there that's charging an overly cheap price on conveyancing, you have to wonder, where is my file going to sit in this?
Yeah.
They're going to attract a large pile of customers because of their price point, which I get. But where would your matter sit? It'd probably sit on the bottom, maybe somewhere in the middle, as they churn and burn through their files. So then obviously you become another number at that point, number one. And number two, if you needed them in an emergency situation or on short notice, are they going to respond to you? The answer is probably no. So you really have to not guide your decision based on price, but more so on expertise. And as a property lawyer, we carry those expertise and have for many years. So that effectively explains the importance of having a really good conveyancing professional, especially a conveyancing lawyer.
Add to that as well? Can I add? I think you're being very modest to just say that your expertise is limited to that. But I think the expertise starts from, checking out the contract. And we feel, oh, what's wrong? What could go wrong with that? But I think where your expertise comes in handy is, is the title correct? Is the land size correct? Is, all those things matter. And now we've seen through so many customers, Mel, that, a few years ago, maybe 10, 20, 30 years ago, when the parents bought it, they hadn't checked it at that time properly, or the legal profession hadn't done their due diligence. And when they came time to sell, it was, there had to be untangling so much of a mess. And if property is all about timing. We know some customers together who've lost, 6 to 8 months just to untangle the mess which was created many years ago. So you being very, as I said, you're being very modest to say that, but your work starts and your expertise is very valuable right from the contract review all the way to ensure that, you and me as mortgage broker and conveyancer are working together to ensure that the customer settles on time. There's no penalties. We work together to ensure that the vendor is ready. I'm sure we've had so many incidents where the vendor is not ready and the customers, removal lists are ready. Everything's ready to move in, but the vendor is like, oh, sorry, give me another week. And everything costs money to rearrange as well. So as I said, you're being very modest to just say that you do so little, but you do a lot. Your expertise and your input is extremely vital to the entire home buying process.
It's all about managing the client's risk. So if you're listening to this, it's all about managing your risk when you go into the property market. Getting us involved, having your contract really carefully looked over. It's not enough to go for just a free contract review. You really need to get it looked over by a seasoned professional, a seasoned conveyancer or conveyancing lawyer, such as myself, to really understand whether there's any red flags in the contract, to be able to also negotiate that effectively for you, to negotiate any changes to better protect yourself before you buy. That's also really important. So no, I appreciate that. Thanks, Rishi. But that's really all we have time for today. I hope you got heaps out of, what is the importance of having a really good finance team, legal team, and any other professionals that would be relevant for your particular transaction. Thank you, Rishi, for your input. It's been very insightful. I've certainly enjoyed having you, so thank you.
Thanks, Mel. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. So you can go to Kria Mortgage Brokers. You can Google them and look up Rishi Bhatia. That's Bhatia. So Rishi is Rishi. Look, go on his website, speak to him, give him a call, explain your circumstances, and he'll be able to guide you the whole way through your transaction. So thanks again, Rishi.
Thanks, Mel.
Did you want to add any other contact details?
Yeah, happy to help. And even if it's just for a chat to say, this is where we are, even if you are 6, 12, 18 months out, please feel free to give me a call. My website is kria.com.au, short and sweet. But yeah, again, Melissa, thank you for having me, and looking forward to doing a lot more of these together.
Me too. So thank you, Rishi. And to our listener, thank you for tuning in. You're tuning into the First Home Show. I'm Melissa Barlass from Conveyed. My website's conveyed.com.au. Check it out. Lots of resources, lots more episodes of the First Home Show on our website. Thanks for tuning in, and happy house hunting.